evening yet. This is great in Alliance. No, it's always nice to see a full room, and I really mean that from my heart, because I've been doing this a long time. I mean, my first, in fact, the Battle of Gettysburg began, that you weren't ready for that. Began on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 160 years ago. I was at the battle. I covered that. Robert E. Lee was really grumpy. That retreat, he did not. Larry took carrots. He didn't want to talk after that. 3 bad days. Back to Virginia he went, and then, all right, I'm going to give away a book to somebody else. Who was the Union general at Gettysburg? Is there any history majors there? Anybody? Raise a hand. Yes? Yeah. Well, you were the general? No.
Oh, that was an easy answer.
Meade is right. All right.
Yeah, good.
George Meade. And did you get a pick of? I got a fake book. I got the Browns Blues, and I got a tab book. Which one do you want? Well, pick one. Oh, okay. Why is that always the first pick when people? I wanted to suffer and read about the Browns. Watching it wasn't bad enough. No, I had to go through that. All right, since General Meade's brother was here, what was his nickname? This I like it. Just do you know? Old Snapping Turtle.
Wow.
All right. You know what? That is a bonus. How about the Cavs for you? I'll tell you that's a history degree in social sciences from Cleveland State with my teaching 6 months of history at Lincoln West to get certified. I should have got combat pay for that, but that worked out. It really convinced me to be a writer, and because I'll tell you, that high school thing, I was telling my friend Larry Pantages, Larry, raise your hand. He was my sports editor for a year at the Beacon, and that when I just still remember, and it goes back to 1977, 5 classes, 3 preps, kids coming and going. By about the 4th class, I had no idea where I was, what I was doing, or what I was saying. I love these talks like this where it's one and done. But I am very grateful to get right down to where I started before I got off in the Civil War. Having covered Gettysburg and still been writing 160 years later, to be actually doing it. And doing it in an area where I grew up, which is Northeast Ohio. And I have even a greater appreciation of that because my first full-time job was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and then I went to Savannah, Georgia, and then I was in Baltimore. So it gave me an idea of why it's nice to cover and work in those towns, but there's nothing like writing sports in the area where you grew up because you just have a natural feel for what's going on. I mean, somebody would say, excuse me, if you moved in here, last 20 years ago, they said Rocky Colavito or World Be Free or something. You kind of have to look it up or know what it is. But those of us, even if you didn't see those players play, and if you grew up in a family of sports, you probably heard somebody talk about them. I mean, I did write a book called Art. Do we have Our Tribe back there? We do. I did just because, of course, I want you to buy the books, but the reason I mention it is the book is titled Our Tribe because to my father, who was a huge baseball fan, and he would talk about the tribe back then as if it were a second family. Bob Feller or Ray Mack, and I didn't see these guys play. Hal Trotsky, them were just like Uncle Pat and Aunt Myron, and try Aunt Pat and Uncle Myron. So that kind of thing, and I think that is part of the reason. Because there's no logical explanation why people are Browns fans. As they would say in my inner city church, can I get an amen on that? There's no logical reason for people to be Browns fans. Unless you just like to suffer. Now, there's a certain degree, I'm not even going to go down there about those folks, but I mean, think about it. In fact, my pastor said to me today, I was talking to him on the phone, he goes, I didn't realize this. I was looking on the internet. I'm like, okay, and? He says, do you know the Browns have lost more games than any other team since 1999? I said, yes, Pastor, I was there. Yes, they did. And yet, we have we have our analytics too. and it looks at, who's reading what, and the Browns numbers continue to be huge. So that's a go figure. But I really think it's because it's passed down from generation to generation.
We haven't died off yet.
You haven't died off, but there's young ones. I mean, think about
They
this.
were
All right.
good.
I was talking with Bernie Kosar about this. In fact, if you have it, about a month ago, I wrote a story with Bernie about his. We got a couple chairs over here. You can even sit in one. So I'm glad you came. But I was talking.